So I'm Madonna Brown, and this is Hank Brown, and we're both licensed clinical mental health counselors. And Hank was diagnosed with Lewy body dementia. He's had it about 10 years. He didn't get a diagnosis right at the beginning. As most of you know, it takes a long time to get that diagnosis. So today we wanted to talk to somebody from YouTube that had issues that are similar, and let's just talk about what's going on in life, because we're trying to share our stuff with everybody. So all of our experiences help everybody else. So today we're talking to Tory. Yeah, so Tory, where are you from?
I am from Henrietta, Oklahoma. Yeah, we're right on the I-40. We're kind of like in between, we're at the corridor for Texas, Oklahoma, where people just kind of go north, south, east, west.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll come out and see you one day.
Yeah, it's not that far. Where are you guys at?
Just central Kentucky, right in the middle. Yeah.
Okay.
Right in the middle. Yeah, but we're what? Hour and a half south of Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay.
What about what's going on with you?
Okay. Well, my issue started about close to 10 years ago. I started when I was walking one day, I noticed my hips were tightening up like the Tin Man. They were just kind of like, okay, this is weird. I can't really get a full stride.
Okay.
So that pattern just kind of kept going, and as that pattern kept going, there was more pain to that tightness in my legs. And before you know it, between my hips and my knees, the pain was so intense, I literally couldn't walk.
Okay.
They couldn't figure anything out. I have a rheumatologist, I have a neurologist, and you go through, well, your doctor's seeing you for this, and then the other doctor's seeing you for that. It was kind of a crossover between the specialists, and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of caught in the middle here. So I have my pain medicines, and I have like the steroid pack to help with, the inflammation and things. And then through time, the neurologist said, have we looked into Parkinson?
Okay.
And I said, no. He says, we're just going to kind of go down that path for a while. And so through time, the Parkinson symptoms, as I thought about it, years ago, I would get a twitch, usually in my eye. One of my eyes would twitch.
Okay.
Or a pinky or a thumb would twitch. So from what I understand, Parkinson's is its own, like a fibromyalgia. You carry it uniquely yourself. And so for me, that's how I was carrying those symptoms.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, and so it was just putting all the pieces together. Well, then the Lewy body part's going to come in, where the forgetfulness. I noticed about a year ago, I wasn't remembering to take a shower. I couldn't remember my neighbors' names.
Okay. Things
were just getting foggy, and I thought, this isn't right, this is weird. And so just those different things. But then the sleepiness kicked in.
Oh, yes.
This huge sleepiness that I'd never felt before just really kicked in. And I don't know if Hank has it, but you can't avoid it. You just have to go to bed. There's no way around it.
Is that the way it is for you?
Yeah, a lot of times it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and in the beginning, it was so much worse. In the beginning, of course, we got one video where he just looks like he's drunk, and we're at work, and he had just took a nap in one of the offices, one of the counseling offices, on a couch, and he got up, and that's just how he looked. But yeah, you could just tell it. You can see it in his eyes and everything. It just begins to drop, and yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't gotten that look yet.
Okay.
That's what I was going to ask. Hank, in one of my questions is, at what point did you go from being you to getting to that point of looking loopy? Because I call it loopy Louie. There's just no other way really around it. You look like anybody looks half loop. That's got.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Funny dementia.
I don't really remember.
If
you started,
in the beginning, Hank had that loopy, what'd you call it, loopy Louie look. He had that in the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, it was no time after we started seeing symptoms. He was just sitting in the chair, just had that flat affect where he just had no emotions on his face. He couldn't go to work. He just sat in the chair all day. Yeah. And then he got on a few medicines that helped just a little. He got on Ritalin. that really give him some energy for a while. And then you got on Adderall, was it Adderall? Concerta for a while. But over time, none of those would give him energy anymore.
Right.
And then once we moved up here 4.5 years ago, he got on the rivastigmine patch, the Exelon patch. And now he doesn't have that flat affect. But one day, about 3 or 4 days in a row, I had forgotten to give him put the patch on. And he went back to that flat affect, just looking down and just pointing at his plate. It was a paper plate we were eating off of. And I said, look, that looks like a ram. And I meant the horns on a ram. And he said, that don't look like a truck. Just like that. And it's just, you could just tell. So yeah, I don't know for us, there wasn't necessarily a certain time exactly. But his was right in the beginning. And now people say, well, he don't even look like he's sick. A lot of days he don't look like it.
No,
like you don't look like you're sick. You just look like a normal, healthy woman.
I get the same thing. I that's part of one of the questions. It's like, how do you deal with that part of it when you can't function? You're barely functioning, and yet people see you as like, you don't look like you're sick. You're okay. You know, what's wrong with you, kind of thing. And that really just throws a wrench into, your feelings, because there's no other way to explain it to people, and you can't make them understand. So I guess it's just something you got to kind of live with.
I think you're better off if you can walk around with a cane and oxygen and wear the brace on your arm. And, if you look sick, people think you're sick.
Oxygen.
But
I wear that at nighttime.
But just like with Hank, you go out, he looks like a normal, well-adjusted man. Now, I'm the same way with you, though. Some days it'll be like this, that, and the other, and it's like, he'll say, I've got dementia. And it's like, oh, yeah, I forgot.
I have to tell her that, hey, I still got it.
Because he looks fine.
Yeah, well, I know my husband is about 2/3 deaf. He's pretty deaf. But I'm telling you, that man can hear more than he lets on, because I can barely say something in another room with another person, and he can hear it, I swear. So I don't buy it 100%.
So how long did it take before you started seeing the loopy Lewy effects?
For me, it's not on my face yet.
Okay.
I don't see it.
Okay.
Now I see it with Jason, the other channel that I look at with
I agree.
And Jason, your channel, and I can see it with his face.
Yes.
Thing. That's how I feel when I'm sleepy, but I just haven't gotten that glass-eyed look yet, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's probably what's going to be next around the corner.
Does Hank have that look today, you think?
I can't see him.
Oh, well,
I can just see that basket that's right behind you.
Oh, you can't see Hank?
I can see part of it. No, I can't. I can see his shoulder.
Oh, well, he's in it full on this side. Scoot over toward me is what she's saying. Yeah. I didn't know you couldn't see him. On our side, can you see him now? Yeah, on our side, you can see us both. So I thought you could see him because we could see us.
Yeah.
I'm on my phone, so I don't know if there's a reason. And I don't want to touch anything, because if I do, I'm going to kill something. So.
Well, when we send you this for you to look at, you'll be able to see him just fine. Yeah. Yeah. He's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see him better now.
Yeah.
So yeah. No, I mean, for me, I can see the Parkinson mask.
Okay.
The face, my facial expressions. For quite a long time, people would be like, "Are you mad?
Okay. Yeah.
Are you sad? What's wrong?"
Right. Yeah. Hank has that frowning face.
Yeah.
He has that a lot.
Yeah, I get that quite a bit. So.
Yeah. But you know what I think is good, Tory, is you know these things. You know these are things that, now I always say they could happen, because I don't believe anything is written in stone. It has to happen. But you know these are things that could happen to you, and you're prepared already. And if you have a frowning face, I always think to myself, just because he has that, that's not a big deal. He can still function. He can still go out. We can still do things and enjoy life. Frown all you want. You know.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So, well, it's just I guess for me, it's trying to get my family to recognize that, because you don't really have a family at home anymore, and my kids are gone too, but my family expects me to keep carrying on the same, being mom.
Yes, ma'am.
Same energy.
Yes.
Same, responsibilities.
Yes.
and it's not there.
Yes.
Yeah. And I used to always try to keep up, but
I can't keep up anymore.
over time, it's like a little piece of me goes away sometimes, you know.
And I don't know that there's a good way to get them to see that, because I have a client that she had cancer, and then she has some form of dementia just from the chemo and different things she's been through, and she's only in her early 40s now. But her family have been forever accepting that she has anything wrong. She needed to cook supper, and she needed this, and she'd tell me, but I can't keep the recipe straight, and I can't, and I said, well, you and your husband both need to be going to therapy to listen to somebody else explain these things, or take him to the neurologist, things like that. And I think our family don't want to accept that there might be something wrong, because then they've got to deal with that, and then they've got to have the pain of hurting for their loved one. And to me, It's easier just to ignore it.
Right. Well, my husband went through that. I went through that in my 40s.
Okay.
I had fibromyalgia start kicking in my 40s, and the pain was so bad, the fatigue was so bad, all these different things. And I would go to the doctor after doctor for all these tests, and nothing would come back. And so my husband would be like, there's nothing wrong with you. The tests show nothing, absolutely nothing. And so finally, he woke up in 2014 with rheumatoid arthritis, and he literally could not close his hands.
Wow.
He was in so much pain.
Okay.
And then after a while, he had to apologize and said, I'm so sorry. I didn't know it could be that way.
Well, that was good of him to apologize, because some people never see that and realize it. So, yeah.
Yeah,
we forgot about it, because it's like, where's the dinner?
Yeah.
It's like, you just can't get out of that loop.
Yeah, we had a doctor that said I was drunk.
Yeah, Dr. Harding. In North Carolina.
He tried to tell me I was just a drunk.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he would always tell me I'd say this and that, and he'd always say, but he don't look that way today. I said, but I'm not a liar. I'm his wife. I've been with him for 20 some years. It's like, no, this is not how he is every day. And we'd go up there and he'd look fine. And then I'd come out crying because we didn't get no answers.
I understand the frustration. I really do. And in that point, I've switched doctors. I've gotten a different, specialist or something if I had to, because you just can't keep going down that path, because it's not fair to you. It's not fair to Hank.
Right.
And then you're not progressing in this. You're not getting, the benefit of, better care, mentally and physically.
Yeah, and I think if you can get a diagnosis early, then you can start taking care of it, because I'd always think, well, does he need to mow the grass and get really tired, or does he not? If he has certain disorders, maybe it means he's better off not to ever mow the grass. If he's got certain disorders, maybe he just needs to keep pushing through. But we didn't know which way to go. What foods do you eat? What supplements do you take? Till you get a diagnosis, you just don't know those things.
And I think it's still an open field, because there's not really any layman's knowledge out there for Lewy body dementia.
I agree.
If you listen to any lecture, they're just going to go into the blah, 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 blah of the ordeal.
Right.
Of the, the ins and outs of the brain chemicals and stuff. But as to the normal everyday functioning, it's like you have to put your own pieces of that puzzle together yourself.
Yeah, it's like, what do you do? We know this and that about the brain, and we know this is what's happening. You have different proteins and all this kind of stuff. We just, as you say, we just want to know, okay, so he's got this, and he's got Parkinson symptoms with it. What do we do? What supplements do we take? What medication does he need to be on? Because I read some things about, like, antipsychotic drugs are not good. But I know a lot of people that's on those, and they work. But we just need to know these things.
I definitely have that in my medical file as an allergy.
Oh, okay.
I will not take Haldol, Trazodone, any of those antipsychotics, because from what I understand, they can definitely progress your symptoms way worse.
Yes.
Or it can even be deadly. So that's what I've been.
Well, and it's like, it's like having surgery. There's certain things, I know sometimes you have to have surgery, you have to be put out. But if you don't have to be put out, then you don't need to be.
Well, my neurologist just told me, he said, whatever surgeries you need to get done orthopedically, he said you need to get it done now. And those were his exact words.
Well, that's really good advice, though, to let you know now is the time. Okay.
But why? He didn't say why. It's like, okay, so for me, it's like, when you think about it, it's like, whoa, what does he know that I don't know?
I think it's because maybe as you progress further, then what can those drugs do when the anesthesia, when they put you out, what can that do? Because it's clear, like Hank had a biopsy of his prostate. So we went through what we were going to have done because we did not want, he was going to have epidural.
Okay.
And they had it all planned, and then they come in, and the anesthesiologist, the lady, started talking to us and telling us what they was going to give me. I said, he's supposed to have an epidural. Oh. And I thought, we've talked about this a bunch of times with the doctor. And then finally the anesthesiologist himself came in. And he said, well, we've got this drug, and they should not leave any lingering effects with people with dementia. And that's what they gave Hank. And I have to say, when he come out, you couldn't tell he'd been put under, but he talked the whole afternoon. I thought, we need some of this to slip you every day. It was like he was just hyped up. So I was all excited. So you just have to decide, because I had another lady said her husband had Lewy body, but he had to have a surgery, and it was unavoidable. It was emergency surgery. So he had to be put out. But when he come out from under, he didn't go back to the way he was. He had progress.
That's what I understand. Exactly. Yeah. That's what I've read and been told. So that's the gamble you don't want to take. So the same thing I've heard too, you don't want to go in the hospital with Parkinson if you don't have to.
Okay.
Because, for me, and that's the difference between me, for my Parkinson's and the Lewy body. For Parkinson's, you need your carbidopa-levodopa medication on time every day at that specific time. Otherwise, you kind of go into a freeze mode.
Okay.
I don't have that. If I don't get my medication on time, it affects my brain chemicals more than my body. Okay. I start feeling just a little disconnected, or like a little blue, maybe like a little anxiety feeling coming on.
Okay.
And that's how I can kind of know my medication. I need my medication, but I don't have the classic Parkinson's thing. So that's how I know it's more Lewy body than it is Parkinson's.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like you're really aware of what's going on in your body, how these things affect you.
Yeah, I've had to. When you start learning about all these diseases, I've had over a decade of learning, having to know between the fibromyalgia, the Sjogren's, the Parkinson's, RA. So you learn to kind of like be your own, dictionary of advice or, information.
I agree.
You have to. But Hank has got the information today, so he's the star of the show.
That means she's going to ask you some questions.
Okay. I'll do my best.
I kind of go over a little bit of them, but, I was going to ask him about medications. When did you start needing your medication?
You know that more than I would.
It was just in the very beginning he started needing medication. Just
in the very beginning.
His just was quick.
It was really quick, and I think me and both Madonna really thought that I wasn't going to be around much longer.
I didn't think he was going to live. Yeah.
He hit him hard and fast. That he's like he woke up almost with Lewy body.
It was just one day he just couldn't remember the words to Conway Twitty's song when we were all singing it, and Conway Twitty's his hero, and I could remember the words and he couldn't. And then that same weekend he tripped over his foot a couple of times at the mall, and it's like then he just declined.
Yeah, it was just downhill after that.
That's exactly how I think mine started when I fell.
I see.
I just stepped off the back porch, and it's like I haven't been the same since.
I see. Mm-hmm. So, like some traumatic event happened physically for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering.
Whenever it did, whenever I fell, it was my body was already in that mode of whatever it was going through. That my brain was already, I think, processing the Lewy body dementia. I wasn't aware of it, but when I fell, nothing's been the same since.
Well, and Hank had concussions when he was younger. He's had 2 or 3?
2 or 3. I had a couple in the Army.
So they thought that concussions can lead to this, but there's no way to know. Have you ever had a concussion or?
Well, I had a very abusive relationship in my younger days, and I was punched in the head.
Okay. So yeah, that's a concussion.
Yeah.
For sure.
He broke his middle finger over my head. It was his fist. So.
Yeah. And the reason I say that's a concussion, I know medically they may not say it is, but we go to acupuncture. And our acupuncturist said that if you have a traumatic event that doesn't touch your head, but emotionally it is traumatizing, we call that a concussion, he said. And there's protocols on this machine that he runs for concussions because he said every day it's like you're getting a concussion. My mom run into the top of the thing and going to the basement when she was a kid, and we went over there and they tested her pulse, and the lady said, "You've had a concussion." My mom's 76. She said, "How would you know that?" She said, "I can tell by your pulse you've had a concussion." And Mom has a dent right here. You can't see it really, but when you push on it, and that's where she hit it when she was a kid, and it's like, yep, she's had a concussion. You're right. So we don't know really what causes Lewy bodies, and we don't really know what to stop it from happening. We're all just trying to adjust as we get it, as somebody gets it, and do what we can. Now, they said the last time Hank went to the neurologist, he don't have signs of Parkinson's anymore. Now, he does. He doesn't swing his arms. There's other signs, but he doesn't walk with a cane at this moment.
It could come back any minute.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Mine is, like I said, I've never really had, I don't have the shakes, just maybe just a tad little bit every now and then.
Right.
Mine is just more in the brain. Mine is just more, I'm not able to focus anymore.
Okay. What about numbers? Are you able to do numbers?
I can do numbers, but if you were to ask me to count backwards, like by sevens, there's no way.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's no way. That's just not going to happen.
That's some of the first things we seen with Hank too, was the numbers. He couldn't put anything into the calendar on the computer. He couldn't. He got where he
couldn't do the phone.
Yeah, he couldn't dial phone numbers at work anymore when we had an office. Yeah.
And of course, that makes it harder on me when I was doing that. It's like Madonna's like, "You can't do that," and I'm like, "Well, no, right now, and you can't really explain it to somebody."
Exactly.
But yeah, it was frustrating.
It is. Well, I don't know about you, Hank, but in the store, if I'm asked a question, like at a Sam's Club, and they'll ask me a question, and I won't know how to answer it.
Yeah, I've done that.
I'll look at my husband and say I don't understand.
Yeah, I know. There at the beginning, well, not the beginning. I guess I still would do it. If we went to, let's say, Walmart, and I was going to go get toilet paper or something, and then I'd get going, and then before I know it, I was kind of lost, and I'd just put the toilet paper down and go find Madonna or somebody,
Oh, you're just kind of like,
And now it's worse when he's out. He might not even be able to call me, so I make sure before he leaves me in a store that we make sure I'm the last person he called on his phone, and I bring that up so when he opens his phone, there I am. Because we just don't. You just don't know as a caregiver from day to day. Are we going out today and he can call me? Oh, well, he's going out today and he's over in the corner of the store. He's had a breakdown. He's crying and don't know what to do. And then I think, when are we going to be in trouble for elderly abuse? Because you never know.
I know. I thought about that. I really have, because we're in different waters now. I don't know when you're considered elderly. I'm 58, so one question about hallucinations, Hank.
Yeah.
That's when I first heard mine. I always thought it was normal to hear your mom's voice in your head, like calling your name. That's been happening, for several years, and I'm like, okay, just a memory of my mom calling my name. Apparently that's not normal.
Yeah.
So when it went from that point to hearing a full-on conversation, that's when I freaked out. It's like, that blew my mind, because there's no other way to explain it. It's like when you see something that you know it's there, but nobody else can see it, right?
Yeah.
For me, I can hear something that I knew that person wasn't there, but I'm hearing a Bible lecture going off, and it's like, what? I literally I want to go under my covers and hide.
Yeah,
That's scary.
my first hallucination was when we was at our office, wasn't it?
I don't know.
And at the end of the hall,
Okay.
it was up.
Okay.
It was like a spider web like thing that was up there, but it didn't last very long. The one that really was freaky was a dirty Jed Clampett. The Hillbillies would always, would be hanging around me, and stuff. And one time at our other house, people was walking up the stairs and just, then just disappearing through the wall, And it was creepy, but I knew it wasn't real. That's the only thing that kept me sane, I guess. I realized that it's not real.
He said where he got his education as a counselor, he knew about hallucinations, and that's why he said, I know they're not real, and that's why I'm not afraid. Yeah. And I'm thinking, I can't even see them, and I'm kind of nervous.
Yeah.
All I can say is for the average person, there's no way on God's green earth I would be taking it that calm, cool, and collectively. I don't know what I would do, but I think I would literally run under my covers and hide.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of times people with Parkinson's and stuff, when they hallucinate, just begin to carry on conversations with those people. And I personally think, well, if Hank's carrying on a conversation, say with Jed Clampett, and they're, having a conversation, and Hank is okay with that, and he thinks it's real, which he doesn't, but if he did, I probably would just let him go on and continue to think that, as long as he wasn't causing any problems.
Anybody or anything.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. And I think as long as you know that these things could happen, like the voices are happening, okay, the voices are happening. That don't keep you from living your life. You just have extra people there carrying on the conversation. You don't even have to read. You don't even have to pay for Audible books.
If I had a visual hallucination, no. I'm getting the patch. You give me some
You love that patch.
Well, it's really the thing that stopped his hallucinations was Namenda. That's what he started taking was Namenda, and the hallucinations stopped. But now you had some last summer when he mowed the grass. He come in and said, "Yeah, Jed Clampett was with me the whole time I mowed the grass today."
And I could see it. And, it didn't give me no problem. I knew what it was. It was kind of crazy. Every now and then, like something else would pop up, and I'd look over at it, and stuff. But then it would disappear.
So how long after you started getting your Lewy dementia symptom did the hallucination start? Was it like almost immediately just the same?
The hallucinations, when we lived in the RV, you didn't have hallucinations.
No, I didn't have it then.
So he probably didn't start having that
we was kind of starting it.
He didn't have them for about 3 or 4 years, the hallucinations, because we moved to another house, and I remember it was a black sheet, is what he called it. And I said, "Does it have a face?" And he said, "No, but it's watching me." And he would wake up in the night and say, "Look, it's up there. It's watching me. Look, it's over me." And I'm just trying to look up. I'm trying to see it, do all I could. And I said, "Are you afraid?" "Well, I don't like it watching me."
I didn't like watching it, but I wasn't really scared of it. In the beginning, I was nervous because I was like, "Well, this is new, But
like being on a drug trip with mushrooms or something.
Yeah, and stuff. But
and in the beginning, he wondered, about 3 years in, he began to wander around the house in the night, and that's when the hallucination started. He would wander around the house, he'd be up in the night, and that's when it's like, we've got to get something done. And then it was a while after that, though, before he really got on Namenda, but that really made a difference. And then they gave him something else, I can't remember what it was, but it caused him to be aggressive, very aggressive.
So it caused him to be aggressive?
Yes. And we didn't know that's what was causing his aggression. He'd get mad, just flip out, start hitting the wall or yelling or cussing. And we didn't know what it was because Hank never had that.
Yeah, never.
And then we went back to the doctor and he said, "Well, I'm going to take you off of this because I think that's causing." Like, I didn't know it could be that medicine, or we would have done something quicker.
Yeah.
Because, you don't go to the neurologist that often. So here you're waiting 8 months, and then you could have got something done sooner, but you can't call them. You can't get nothing done. So.
No, that's where Dr. Google for me has always came in. I've always done my research, you know, and you have to be careful because everything's not, you know, in true form on Dr. Google, you know, basically. But if you go into your more credible websites, you know, your medical websites like WebMD or like NHI or just different things like that, you're going to get, you know, spot on information.
Yeah, and I try to find people that I like to follow, doctors that I trust, whatever they're, you know, whatever kind of doctor they are. And if I trust what they got to say for most things, that's, and if you can get 3 or 4 to say pretty much the same thing, then you pretty much know, hey, this is working. And then we might try stuff. We're willing to try, you know, like acupuncture. We bought a sauna. Now, that was for me when we bought it. And it seemed like the sauna really wears Hank out instead of, I'm not saying it don't detoxify, but that really seems to wear him down.
Yeah. I can't take the heat. I cannot be out in the heat, and I can't do the cold.
Yeah,
Hank, get me out in that heat, it just does something to me where I don't know, it just drains you. It drains your energy out. It causes you to just want to just lay down and not get up, I guess.
He's the same way, and he lifted mulch one Sunday afternoon in the really bad heat. He had to go to bed, and he kept saying, I don't know why. I wanted to help you. I don't know why. I said, because it was hot. And we realized, hey, and that was just last summer, so we were just now realizing how bad it is.
Yeah.
And when he mows the grass.
Last summer was pretty brutal. It was pretty hot. It was pretty intense. So.
Sure. So you just, you know, I try to think of it, Tory, like you break your leg in a car accident, you're going to use crutches, you're going to use a walker, you're going to have certain things you have to do to live your life. Okay, this has happened to Hank now. Okay, well, when you mow the grass, you don't want to mow when it's extremely hot. Here's the precautions you're going to take. We got a riding lawnmower where you don't have to push the whole yard. But we just live with it. As we get older, we can't eat certain things at certain times. You can't do this. You know, I'm not going to be able to get up and put gutters on a house like I used to could do, or roof a house. Those are things I can't do now. We just all change as we get older, and we adjust accordingly.
Exactly. And that's something me and my husband both have, you know, done in the last 7-8 years, because he's a machinist. He was a machinist.
Okay.
A journeyman. You know, he's very, very good at what he did. And then all of a sudden you can't use your hands. So then as a man, he can't fix things around his house. It takes him forever to get something done.
Right.
And then that puts him back emotionally because he feels bad. You know, I'm not doing my part. I'm not doing my job.
Okay.
I'm not, you know, pulling my end of things.
Yeah.
And so when I tell him you can't do what you can't do, just work with what you got.
Exactly.
And that's all that you can do.
And then I try to think back, too, when we were kids, there was things we couldn't do as a child, and we didn't beat ourselves up like this.
Right.
You know, we couldn't drive a car till we turned 16. They might let us, but you couldn't get your license till you couldn't drink till you was this age. You couldn't do things. And we all have limitations throughout our entire life. And as you say, we do what we can do. Whatever it is, then let's just do it. I mean, Hank still puts the dishes up out of the dishwasher. I'm thrilled with that. He still takes the garbage out. He say, I'm just good to take the garbage out. You know, and it's like, but somebody's got to take it out. I'm thrilled you've got that job and I don't have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. But the washing machines and stuff is a different issue.
washing clothes has really changed. He got confused today. He had to put he went to put a load into wash, and he said he got all confused. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why. Laundry. I mean, you just put it in there and get it out, but for somehow I mess it up. I don't.
Exactly. I agree. That's what happens, and we don't know why.
Yeah, it's okay. No, it's just, I guess I'm just having to see. I'll have to wait it out. There's nothing I can do. You know, for me, it's like, what's around that bend? What's around the corner?
So what brings you encouragement to keep pushing forward?
Yeah, it's just the unknown. Because I want to plan for my family. I want to be able to, like, okay, if I was to wake up tomorrow, like Hank did, they wouldn't know what to do.
Okay.
They really wouldn't. They're going to be at a loss.
Okay.
So that's why I try to do my homework now to plan ahead for them.
So the question is, can you really plan for them, or is these things that they're going to need to learn? Like our daughter the other day said, if something happens to you, Mom, I'm not going to know what to do with Dad with his medicine, this, and this. And I thought, then we just need to come up with a plan. I have a notebook. We have computers. I can write stuff down. So you'll know exactly what to do if anything happens. And that might comfort you if you could do something like that. But remember, you might not be able to ever get them to see the light. Some people just don't see the light. They want to live in that unknown because it makes them feel better.
That's true.
Because I want you to have encouragement every day. I want you to wake up and say, hey, I'm living my life today. Here's what I'm going to do today. Whatever it is. I mean, if Hank, like I say, is just taking the garbage out today. It's like, well, to me, that's a reason to get up and take the garbage out today. Because we got to keep living life if we're alive. I always say until we're in the grave, let's keep living.
Oh, exactly. And my pets keep me going.
Good.
My dogs, now say cats, and that just keeps me going, keeps me focused.
Wonderful.
Something.
I personally think a lot of times with Hank, I think I'm glad that his mind has gone at the same rate as his body deteriorates. Because why would you want to be able to physically not be able to do anything but your mind still just be, it's almost like in a way I feel like he's being protected. It's all going at the same time.
Well, I can understand what you're saying because that's what it's like when you have rheumatoid arthritis.
Okay.
Your body says, I can't do it, but your mind says, yes, we can, and your body says, no, we can't. And then that's when your anxiety, depression, and the pain just has this nasty loop that just, constantly feeds on each other because you're not that old. You know what you want to do, but yet you can't do it.
Yes. And pain leads to depression. And then depression leads to more pain. And as you say, it's that vicious loop just going around and around. You're right.
It is. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys, getting on here and talking with me and helping and just helping me to see that, it's just going to be time, I guess. And
well, we appreciate you getting on here with us.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking over time, we can do it again, to see. You may find out that you don't progress fast. I mean, like I say, Hank is better now than he was in the beginning.
Isn't that strange?
Yeah. It's very strange. And people will comment, no, this is not how it is. He's not had it 10 years. There's no way. And that's why we put out that video of him in the beginning to show, here's what he was in the beginning. So, because it's confusing to us too. It's not like, it's like, no, it's confusing. I mean, there's a lot of things. In the beginning, he did drive. He does not drive at all now. He could cook some days. He can't cook at all now. So there are things he was a lot worse, things he is worse now. But it's just easier to deal with now for me.
When did you stop driving, Hank?
What has it been? 3 years ago?
Just about a year, a little over a year ago. He hasn't been driving much for a while, but a year ago, pretty close to it, we just quit.
Yeah. Now, I know my neurologist, he had me walk around in his little room. And he said, I kind of had a little stoop, as I walked, a little bend. So I asked him, I said, well, how's my driving? Should I stop driving? And he said, no. He said, you're in the beginning phases right now. You should be okay.
Okay.
But for me, driving on the highway at 70 miles an hour, if all of a sudden your brain is like taking a detour, that to me is not safe.
Yeah.
Well, I'm choosing not to drive 70 miles an hour. I might drive here in town locally just a little bit. But for the most part, no, I won't do that.
See, and Hank give up the driving around town quicker than he did the longer trips because he said it was the red lights that was very confusing and all the traffic.
Too much.
Yeah, too much going on.
Too much of this in my face,
Exactly.
And if that makes sense, And
I can understand that, yeah.
Now, if you put me on a highway and, no cars around, I'd probably drive fine, but,
But I think, Tory, you do what works for you.
Yeah.
That's what I think. And I'm all about if you can continue to drive, you continue to drive. You want to be independent as long as you can. The neurologist said that with Hank, when he did the clock, where he would bunch all the numbers up on one side of the clock, that let him know that he's not going to be able to drive because his spatial recognition or depth perception, all that kind of stuff, that he wouldn't be able to continue. That's when they realized. But the last time Hank went, instead of everything being bunched up over here at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, he spread it all the way out, so he got all the way up to almost the 10. Wow. And had it spread out.
Very good.
And I'm thinking, why? I say, I don't know why.
I don't either. I wish I knew.
We wish we knew to tell all of you guys. Say, hey, here's the 3 steps you do, and you'll get better.
I don't understand why they're saying I don't have Lewy body now.
No,
Parkinson's. I mean, and stuff. I.
Because he had a breakdown the other day, and he's shaking all over and has to go to bed, and
When you have the Parkinson's, it's just that the Parkinson's is not as prevalent as the Lewy body.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what mine is.
Because you have to have Parkinson's to have the Lewy body. It's the same thing, basically.
It all ends up the same place, right? Is what I always say.
Yeah.
Well, I think you take care of yourself and get everything else healed because you've had a lot going on. Just falling and all the broken bones and all the stuff all that's a lot in itself to heal from. If you didn't have Lewy body dementia or Parkinson's, would be a lot for you to heal from, Tory. It would be a lot.
Oh, I know. It's just, I guess I'm in automatic mode.
That makes sense.
Because I've had to go through so much with my husband's health and in my health, I just don't think about it. We just do.
Okay.
Just do.
So I guess every day you just try to think of something encouraging that you can get up and do, and that you feel like I've got a purpose. If you drink coffee, you get up and say, I'm having a cup of coffee today. Some days that's what I do. I just say, hey, this afternoon I'm going to sit down with this 1 cup of coffee. Yesterday for 15 minutes before I had a client, I was in between sessions. I'm going to sit with Hank because he had been in the bed most of the day yesterday. We don't know why. Nothing happened. He just went back to bed.
That was me yesterday. That was me. I literally was like in sleep mode. I had to go to sleep.
2.5 hours later, I went in and woke him up and said, well, it might be time to eat. And he got up, and I drank coffee, and he ate, and then I went back to work. So
it was just like a normal day again.
Yeah. So we just take it little by little, I guess, sometimes just hour by hour.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is just learning your body and feeling it,
Exactly.
Because I know some things, and then some things Madonna sees it, so it kind of takes both of us.
And we don't want you to feel like there's a right or there's a wrong.
There's not. I mean,
You're just giving information to everybody else to say, hey, here's what I'm doing to take care of myself, and here's what's working, or here's what's not working. And then somebody else can take it and say, well, Tory did this, Hank did this, somebody else did this, and then they try it and say, well, I found this worse, because nobody has the answer.
No.
We just want to help.
Does, we're all unique in how we process these diseases, and it's just, like I said, with fibromyalgia, everybody carries that differently.
Exactly.
Same thing with Parkinson's.
Exactly.
And I think it's probably the same thing with Lewy body. We're all going to carry it differently. So there's no cookie cutter, mode to this whole thing.
Yeah, because you're Tory. You're not somebody else. So there's not a cookie cutter for Tory.
Nope, just me.
Exactly. So you have to decide what works. And if you got fibromyalgia to go with Lewy body, see, Hank don't have anything but high blood pressure. So he has no other illnesses to go with his. But you have that you've got fibromyalgia to take in consideration with whatever's going on too.
This is why I like this format. We can get. Now you know a little bit more about us. We know a little bit more about you, so we can maybe help somebody around here, and you can help somebody around you.
Well, and we're going to put it on YouTube.
Yeah, and it's going to
go on YouTube. So it'll be all kinds of people then.
So hopefully somebody else will step up, from the forum and say here, introduce themselves. And,
I hope
we can get to learn more about them.
And you were the one that said you wanted to have maybe a group. Were you the one that commented about a group? Okay.
Yeah, I thought it would be, I signed up for the Lewy body dementia, LBDA, I think it is.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a group.
Okay.
And when I signed in with this Zoom meeting group, there was probably about 10 or 11 people that I had talked to.
Okay.
You only get like about 5 or 6 minutes or so to really have a conversation or ask a question. And I thought, that would be neat to have it more on a YouTube level.
Okay.
For people who, you're commenting more, you're kind of understanding each other better.
Okay.
Through those comments, you're kind of learning who the people are.
Okay.
It's just putting a voice to it in that sense. So yeah.
I mean, I think it would be good. I don't want to be the one that has to come up with some, but I was thinking as we were talking, like we say, okay, we're going to have this meeting every Tuesday at whatever time, and today we're going to talk about hallucinations. I know we're going to get sidetracked because we all like to talk, so, but you know, it would be neat if you could just have, I mean, I would be fine with something like that. And we could either post it on YouTube or not post it on YouTube. I mean, we don't have to put everything unless we just wanted to. But I can make sure to record them all in case somebody, you know, wanted to.
Sure.
But it's, I mean, yeah, if you come up with a plan and think it's a good idea, and, you know, I'll be more than happy to post somewhere saying we're going to do that or whatever and do what we can. Because I think, I mean, I just can't imagine being the LBD association and they didn't even get but 11 people.
Yeah. It's just something.
You know, to me, I'm thinking something like that, you ought to have 400 or 500 in a group. I don't know what you do with that many, but...
No.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Okay.
Yeah, that was quite interesting. I felt so bad for those poor people. The ages were from 80 down to like 35 or 40 was the youngest member in that group, and she was a teacher.
Wow.
So... Wow, you know.
I might need to just go to one of those and get a feel for the group as somebody that's, as you know, a participant in the group, and get a feel for that, and then that might help me to be able to understand what.
I can send you the information if you want me to.
The Lewy Body Dementia Association group.
Yeah, I don't know about the group, but I'm not a big fan of them.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, once you experience it, then I might help me come up with extra ideas and stuff.
Right. Yeah. Attorney, I don't feel like it's for me.
There you go.
I don't know. It just...
When I watched them, it was always like they just trying to prove something, you know, make it to get money or something. I don't know. I just...
Okay.
No, they were just more like, it's just more of like a association, like a, I don't know, it wasn't really helping with the Lewy body part. It was just more like association, like, you know, what you doing, and, you know, what'd you do today kind of thing. And, you know, it just wasn't really what I was looking for.
And sometimes I think we get tired of reading research studies and hearing what the research says when we know, well, it worked in our life. I'm sorry that the research doesn't say it works, but if it worked for you, why wouldn't you continue to do it, you know? So that's kind of what I want to go on. And I'm glad that we're not doctors, and, you know, that way we don't know those things or can't say we're a doctor. And this is just, we're just giving out common sense, in layman terms, the best we can.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, we're really glad that you came today. And Hank, you don't have a joke? You don't have a joke today for the end of our video?
Oh, what's that one that I was going to do?
I don't know. I didn't prepare for that, really, to tell you the truth. Okay.
Oh, wait, I'll tell you my basic joke.
Okay.
Deal from the beginning.
Okay.
Get me started.
Is it about the eggs?
Yeah.
The best thing about...
You know what the best thing is about having Lewy body dementia?
No.
You can hide your own Easter eggs.
You're not going to find them, right?
Maybe next year you might, but...
Okay. Well, we're really glad that you guys watched us, and if you want to subscribe, you know, sign up for notifications, all that stuff I always say on YouTube because I don't really promote all that, but we're really glad that Tory came today and that we got to talk. We'll probably talk to Tory many more times. But yeah, we just hope that this helps. Please comment. Let us know if you got other ideas or if you want to do something like this with us and get your story out there. And if you need anything, just let us know.